Hello dear students, welcome to the last unit of class 5 and term 2. So you have learned a lot of things and we have come thus far almost to the end of this term with this last unit. Today in our EVS class, we are going to hear about a story of a real life story. And the story is a story of bravery, of sacrifice, and of unity. Yes, it is the story of our Indian freedom struggle. Reading this unit brought a lot of tear to my eye because a lot of people lost their lives and they endured so much hardship to give us the freedom that we enjoy today. We can walk out anywhere on the street. We can go anywhere. We can have any education. We can do any business. Anything can be done because of what those precious people endured and fought for our freedom struggle. Let's hear it like a story. So, in the olden days, our country, India, was very famous for its textile, silk, jewelry, handicrafts, and spices. The reason I said it's a story is, it is of course a story, but for you to remember, it is a story is better, right? All right. So India was famous for these things. And so traders from all across the world came. Arabs and Greeks came. And then in the 16th century, traders from other European countries like Holland, Portugal, and France came so they can trade with Indian traders for these products. India was very good in making, and it was very famous all over the world. So traders from all these countries came. Then in the 16th century, the British traders also came to trade with us for these things. All these European countries wanted to take ownership or wanted to have their territory in India. So they fought among themselves. But the British won over the other European countries and the British established themselves in India. Now, how did British establish their rule in India is, number one, in 17th century, they started slowly establishing themselves and East India Company was born. That is the first thing that they did to establish themselves after, winning the war or winning over the other European countries. They solely established themselves in the 17th century. So the story starts in 16th century. In 17th century, they established themselves solely and started the East India Company. And then they got exclusive rights from Queen Elizabeth to do the trade in the East. So it got better for them. And what did they do? They started trade centers in Masulipatam, St. George Fort, Surat, and other parts of our country. They started their own trading centers, and those years, that is the 17th century and all, our country was going through a very difficult time. The Mughal Empire was declining and the rulers were fighting with each other. India was divided into small kingdoms and they were all fighting with each other. So that is the time the British established themselves. That is, they came and they did all the trading centers and all. And they found that there was so much disunity in our country at that time. And then they started, because their trade got better, the British also established their army. Now when the army came, they could easily fight the rulers in our country. Disunity was there in our country, so people were all divided and standing. So the British, after they established the army, they easily fought our rulers and they got full rulership, or they were fully ruling India. Okay, so that is first thing what happened. And then it didn't stop there. Okay, it didn't stop there. After they got the full country to rule, or full country to obey their orders, what did they do next? So then they increased the taxes of our farmers. The farmers had to pay high taxes to the British authorities. Even if there was a flood or a drought and the crops were destroyed also, it didn't matter. They were asked to pay a heavy taxes. Okay, the farmers had to pay heavy taxes. Okay, and the second thing that happened was, the farmers were doing a good business. Okay, they had food crops, they had textiles, everything like we said. So the British government forced them to have cash crops instead of food crops. So the cash crops like indigo and all were more. Okay, then third thing what they did was, they would take the raw material, that is cotton. Remember, India was famous for textiles. So they would take cotton from the Indian farmers and they would sell that, or not sell that, they would use it in the British textile mills in London. Okay, and our farmers could not sell that to any other country, and so they would take it from us, the raw material, and they would use it in their mills. That's the third thing they did. The fourth thing that they did was, they made it a rule that we could only sell to the British. We could not sell it to anybody else. Okay, so that means our revenues came very, very low. And the fifth thing was, they would take our raw material and they would sell, the British would sell their cheap mill products to our country, and we had to buy only those things. Okay, so that was the fifth thing. Then the sixth thing was, the farmers, if they did not produce the goods or did not give the goods at the right time, they always fined them. That was the sixth thing. And then they fill the Indian market with all the cheap mill products from the British. So the British had two-way purpose, the two-way benefit. One was, they got the raw material from us, okay, which was very good. Okay, which was good products that they got from us, and they sold their goods in our market for a their cheap goods were sold in our market, and our people were forced to buy, because they established themselves solely. All the other countries that came to trade with us were defeated. Okay, and we had to buy only the British product. They started ruling our country, so the farmers also had no choice. So this went on, and our farmers were heavily taxed. So there was no food in our country, proper food, okay, for our farmers and for the Indians. Okay, there was poverty. Okay, then there was unemployment. Okay, then there was famine. Okay, and millions and thousands were dying because of all these things. See, heavy taxes, so they went into bankruptcy, and then there was no cash crops, so there were more cash crops and less food crops, so there was starvation. Okay, and okay, starvation also was there. So because of all that British were trying to do to establish themselves and gain for them, our Indian farmers really went through a struggle, and these were the results. That is when our country, the people of our country, started realizing there's something bad happening. We have to do something. So, the first struggle for independence, okay, started in 1857, and it is called the first revolt. Okay, it was called the first revolt in 1857. So, imagine this started in 17th century, and let's see how many years it went by. Okay, so the first revolt happened. Okay, and this happened when in Meerut some of the Indians were asked to do a certain thing. That is, they were asked to put cartridges in the guns, put cartridges, and those cartridges were greased with cow and pig's fat, which was very demeaning to the Hindus and Muslim brothers. Okay, so that led to an immediate revolt, which was the revolt was led by Bahadur Shah, then Tantia Top, Nana Sahib, and the very famous Rani Lakshmi Bai. Okay, and then she fought very bravely, but sadly she lost her life. Okay, so that was the first thing that happened, this 1857. Then in many of these British people also had a lot of sympathy for us. So in 1885, A.O. Humes helped our leaders to form the Indian National Congress, and those days the Indian National Congress grew very strong because the people worked very hard when they saw the situation of our country, you know, very sad situation. Our leaders, these leaders who were part of the Indian National Congress, worked very, very hard. In fact, even Annie Besant and another person called C.F. Andrews, they all helped our people because they had a lot of sympathy for us. Okay. Yes, and there were other Britishers like Annie Besant, C.F. Andrews. They also had a lot of sympathy on our people and decided to help us in many ways. Now, like I said, the Indian National Congress was formed in 1885. These were the leaders: Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Dadabhai Nauroji, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, S. Banerjee, Bipin Chandrapal, Lala Lajpat Rai. And these leaders worked tirelessly. You know, they decided we have to get the freedom. And Bal Gangadhar Tilak said, freedom is my birthright and I shall have it. So that was their motivation, and they fought very, very hard. But sadly, these leaders, the Indian National Congress leaders, were tortured, they were beaten, they were sent to the jail. Okay, and all these things were done to them, but the movement grew stronger and stronger. Then in 1914, Mahatma Gandhiji returned from South Africa to India and he joined the Congress. And what did he do? He traveled through the country and visited and saw the condition of all the people of our country, and he urged them to fight in a non-violent manner to gain the independence. That was what happened in 1914. Then in 1919, so when Gandhiji spoke about non-violent movement, everybody were encouraged. In fact, the whole country, they were very charged up to support Gandhiji, and many of them, thousands of them, left their homes. And one time, you know, the people gathered together. They left their homes and joined the struggle. One time in 1919, in Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar, 20,000 men, women and children had gathered because they had to talk about some British penal laws that were really bothering them. So they had gathered together, and the British opened fire, and hundreds of men, women and children, women, men lost their lives, and thousands were wounded. It was a very shocking incident, and people in the country were so shocked, but that fueled them to get into this movement stronger and stronger. Okay, so then what happened is that then the Gandhiji started the non-cooperation movement, that is non-cooperation movement or Satyagraha movement in 1921. Because of this Jallianwala Bagh incident, Gandhiji decided it is not going to be enough, so he started the non-cooperative movement or Satyagraha movement, and in 1921 he started this. People from all over the country joined Gandhiji. The leaders were Jawaharlal Nehru, Motilal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, Rajendra Prasad, Maulana Azad, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Sarojini Naidu and Rajagopalachari were some of the leaders in the struggle at that time to support Gandhiji. And at the call of Gandhiji, not just these leaders, but thousands of youth, okay, left their schools and colleges and joined the movement, and the movement got stronger and stronger. Then what happened is in 1930, 26th January, okay, this day the people of our country declared that they will struggle for self-rule, okay, or Purna Swaraj, okay, self-rule or Purna Swaraj. Okay, so that happened on 26th January 1930. And that is another reason why 26th January is celebrated as our Republic Day. Although it took 20 more years for our country to become a democratic republic country. So, but it started at the Purna Swaraj, where the people of our country took a vow. They took a oath that they will struggle till they get the Purna Swaraj. This happened in 1930, 26th January. Okay. So then what happened is, then the SALT movement, all this, the Dandi March, let's call that as a Dandi March, that is. So for easy thing, you can say in March 1930. Okay, in March 1930, okay, the date is also 12th March 1930, Mahatma Gandhiji decided to do the Dandi March. So what is the Dandi March is? He walked from the Sabarmati ashramam where Mahatma Gandhiji lived to Surat, okay, to Gujarat, okay, to Dandi in Gujarat, okay, and it was near Surat, and they walked, okay, they walked. And do you know what was the distance? It took them 25 days to reach Dandi. And the people followed Gandhiji, and Gandhiji broke the salt law by reaching the place and taking the salt water, heating it and producing the salt. Thousands of people followed what Gandhiji did, and they broke the salt law. And the movement became stronger and stronger. But what happened was, because of the Dandi March, so many hundreds of our leaders and including Gandhiji was imprisoned. But people did not give up, and our leaders also did not give up. Srimati Sarojini Naidu took over the leadership. Then in 1942, because we are telling like a story, you can remember these dates. Then in 1942, what happened was, Gandhiji told the British people that to quit India, give the power to Indians, back to Indians, and they have to leave the country with immediate effect. Okay, this is what Gandhiji told. And a lot of people that time were again, almost all the Congress leaders were arrested, and they were put in the prison along with so many youngsters. Okay, so that's what happened in 1942. But did they give up? No. People continued to grow and join the movement, and this movement grew because people wanted freedom. They were being harassed, they were being unfairly treated. There was no justice because our own farmers, couldn't sell their products, and we had to give up our freedom. So many things were there. So people were really out to get our freedom back. Okay, so that's what happened in 1942. Quit India movement. Okay, Quit India movement happened. Okay, but so many leaders, almost all the leaders were imprisoned. Thousands of youngsters, everybody were imprisoned. But the movement became more and more powerful. Then the British realized that Indians are not going to be satisfied with anything but complete freedom. Okay, that is when it occurred. So did you see when it started? It started in 17th century, the first revolt in 1857, and it took so many years for this thing to come to pass, and how many people lost their lives and struggled and sacrificed, and oh, they went through such torture and hardships just to get us to where we are right now, right? Okay, so what happened was, when the Quit India movement started, and all the national leaders were imprisoned, then all the schools and colleges were shut, all the youth joined the movement, and it became really, really tough. And the British realized that they have to give freedom, so they started releasing the people from the prisons, and their talks were on to leave the country and give the rule back to India itself. Then in we were keeping the dates, I'm sorry. So in 1947, what happened was, okay, 1942. So then, so because it was really getting difficult, and the people were not resting till they got the freedom. It was like that. Then the British Raj decided to give over the leadership back to Indians itself. But a sad thing happened there, because there was some unrest in the Congress and the Muslim League. So that was something sad that happened, because Gandhiji and all the leaders dreamt of a united India. That's why they fought so much for the freedom. Okay, and the fighting was not killing and this thing, it was non-violence. Okay, and so then they decided that they will take two parts, one for the Hindus and the other part for the Muslim, and that formed the Pakistan. And that was the one sad thing that happened. But the happiest thing was that our country got the independence. So on 15th August 1947, okay, India got its independence, and our Prime Minister at that time, Jawaharlal Nehru ji, hoisted the flag and celebrated our freedom. Okay, so that was he hoisted the Indian national flag at Red Fort, Delhi. Okay, till then I'm sure there were British flags all over, okay, establishing their rule and showing their supremacy. But in 1947, 15th August, everything changed forever, and we continue to have that wonderful freedom even till now. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this wonderful story, a real life story, and so much sacrifice involved. Aren't you happy about your freedom? Yes. And also we should be responsible, good stewards of our freedom. Remember that always. And that brings us to the end of this term 2. Yeah. Are you excited that you learned a lot of new things, and there's so many things you can explore and discover with all this that you learned in EVS. So all the best, and we will see you in term 3. Bye-bye.